Okay, so I wanted to make this video for like a year, and it basically just explains everything about me and my life, and it might have a scary title, but I think it explains everything. So I hope it's not too long, but I'm just gonna explain everything. So yeah, I grew up. When I was a child, from like age 7, I knew what I wanted to do in life. I wanted to be a fashion designer, and I would spend like hours and hours just drawing and designing clothes and whatnot. When I was in secondary school, that's when I got like recognized as actually having talent. I still remember like we had this project and I was drawing and everyone reacted like, "Oh, it's so good!" I'm like, yes, I'm actually good. Um, so yeah, I wanted to be a fashion designer, and when I was like 13 or 12, no, maybe 13, I got into like, let's say I got into J-pop and K-pop and stuff, but mostly J-pop. And in when I was 13, at the end of the year, at the end of the summer, I went to Hong Kong, and in that time I bought my first Utada Hikaru CD, which was a big deal. So that was the start, because I listened to it so many times. And then when I came back, it was literally the day I came back to the UK. I met this boy who ended up being my first love. Okay, so I don't know why I had to say that, but it's like, so I have been in love. Okay, so I went to I did okay in GCSEs exams, did alright, better than alright. And then I went to college to study fashion, and it was okay, but basically after leaving secondary school, which was like compulsory education, I would say I had trouble making friends, but at the same time it's not like I wanted to make friends, because, and this sounds like really autistic, but I just felt like if someone doesn't have the same interests as me, I don't really want to make friends with them. Like, I wasn't really bothered if people weren't interested in the same things as me. And that seemed to become like a general theme of my life in general. So in college, I was like, but I didn't notice at the time, but it was actually pretty bad. Like, I was ostracized, and one of the teachers, she noticed and she thought, she's depressed. I didn't know any of this. And then, but I went to the counselor, and I went to the counselor like every week or something. But when I went to the counselor, it was just to talk about like my relationship with my mother, because that was the main problem in my life. That was the biggest thing. Like, that was the thing that just messed me up more than anything. I wasn't thinking of, I mean, I was sad, yes, but I didn't really know why. And I never thought that I wanted to die or anything, I don't think. And also, there's something else. I had an eating disorder, so that was one of the things I was thinking about most of the time, is like food, eating, and how much I weighed, my height, all that kind of stuff. From like when I was 13, from, yeah, and it's really bad, but it was definitely influenced by like media and stuff. It was because of that. I used to get like magazines, and then getting into like K-pop and J-pop really didn't help as well. So anyway, fast forward, when I was studying fashion, I just changed my ambition slightly, and I wanted to do fashion design as a degree, but then I wanted to be a stylist. That was my thing, because they said, yeah, stylists who have studied fashion are really good. They're really like all rounders. So that's what I wanted to do. I was predicted the top marks for the course I was on, which was great. And the university I wanted to go to since I was a child was Central St Martin's. In the UK, I hope the system has changed, but I feel like it hasn't. So when you apply to university, you have to use this system and you put like choices. I think you get like 5 choices, or you can just choose one choice and you have to pay. So before not just me, everyone, before sending the applications, we went to like open days and stuff. So I went to, I think, 3 major universities that had like the best, I thought, or were considered the best for fashion in the country. And something that they said was like, we only really consider first choice applications. So when you apply, you put them as your first choice and then they will consider you. And it seemed like if you put them as your second choice, that they wouldn't consider you. And so I took this and everyone took this, and so basically I knew I wanted to go to Central St Martin's, so I could only have one first choice, so I had to just not put down the other universities, which were Kingston and Ravensbourne, maybe? But I still remember the open days and everything when they said that, because it's messed up. It's a really messed up system. So I just did Central St Martin's. Literally, I applied to one university. Okay, so yeah, luckily. So when you apply, you just have to do like a personal statement. I think they didn't see my work or anything, but I think they saw my grades, and then you get through to the actual, I don't know what they call it, but it's a day where you bring your portfolio and then they're gonna look at it. So I got through to that day and I didn't get through, and then that's it, it's over. So I didn't really know what I was supposed to do then. It was really horrible because it's like you go to Central London and you put your portfolio on the table and then they're like, okay, come back in 2 hours, and then they just read out names and it's like, these people have got through to the next stage. So that was like, okay, my dreams are broken. I don't know if I'd considered what I would do next, or if I considered what I would do if I hadn't got in. I don't know. But yeah, I don't know what I thought I would do. But from that moment, like, my life ended basically. I didn't think I would cry while doing this. I'm just gonna take a short break. Okay, so in hindsight, I can understand why my portfolio didn't get through, but I'll go back to that. So anyway, after that, I was just down to continue at the college to do an art and design degree, because they said that was what people should do to get actually to get in to an arts university and to study something like fashion. Doing an art and design course was like the best option. So okay, I did that, but I didn't know that basically as soon as my dreams were crushed and my life ended, I would lose the ability to like be creative. It was very, very slow. Like, I managed through the art and design course, but I lost the will to live. But I wasn't depressed, but I didn't know I was. But like, I just found it much harder to do my work, and I would get more easily distracted by other things. And yeah, and then I remember the same thing happened to another student who applied to St Martin's. Like that, the second year I didn't apply to St Martin's because I was just damaged by them. Just to give you an example of how good I thought I was, in my first term at that college, because of the first project we did, I was chosen for this Olympics project. So this was like 2006, I think, and I got through to the final of this Olympics project. It was Beijing Olympics, for the Beijing Olympics, and I actually got to study at St. Martin's for like a week. So I was like, oh, you know, I am the top, I am gifted, I am, you know. So yeah, it's really horrible when you just like fall from that and you don't know how to get back. So, but I never got back. I never regained my confidence or anything. But the thing is, it's not like I was confident. As I said, I didn't really have friends, and I didn't have social skills, and I didn't really feel comfortable generally. I didn't. I've never felt comfortable since I left secondary school, to be honest. Yeah. What else? So that year, doing art and design, I decided I'm just gonna try and focus on like styling then. So I applied to London College of Fashion for like a styling course, and I mean it was simple just to get through to the like when they look at your portfolio, and it was actually like one-on-one interview. And I guess it would have been okay, but for some reason when they asked me like, do you have any questions, I asked them like some really dumb thing, which was really embarrassing. I wish I'd never done that. I don't know if it affected me getting in, but then again, looking at my portfolio again, like as I remember it, like okay, I understand. But then at the same time, I hadn't done a degree yet, so I was still like a beginner. So I guess they shouldn't have had super high standards. I don't know. Back then, when I didn't know what I know now, I would think, oh, if I'd gotten into St. Martin's, if I'd gotten into London College of Fashion, I would have developed depression in that first year, and I probably would have dropped out. That's what I think. But anyway, so I did actually get into a university at the end of that year because I had other choices, and there were other universities who didn't care about the first choice rule. So I got into Middlesex University to do a kind of styling course, which I barely remember. I went for one term. It was okay, but that's when my depression really took over, and that's when I actually went to the doctor. So I dropped out, and then, well, I didn't drop out, I said I was deferring, and then I went to the doctor, and that's when I actually got like medication for my depression. And then but I don't think I was suicidal, no. And then so at that time I was like 19, 20. I was 20, and I was in a horrible place, and then some other things happened, and I thought, oh, I want to go to Japan. Previously the summer I had gone to Japan for a month. I've never been to Japan as a tourist, which is another thing which I regret. I wish I'd come here as a tourist. I've never come here as a tourist. I always came here as like someone who was seriously wanting to live here or something like that. Or like, I have stuff to do, I'm gonna take time to do it, that kind of thing. Anyway, so I applied for a working holiday visa and I got it. I had this plan, like you have to write what you're gonna do, and I wrote all this stuff like I'm gonna travel here, I'm gonna travel there. I don't think that was my intention, because I don't actually like traveling. I've never changed. To this day, I have never been most places in Japan. Yeah. So in the working holiday, I applied for this special job, which was to work in Okinawa in a hotel. Yeah, that's what they said. That's what they said. Work on the beach. I don't even remember, and I don't know why I would have wanted to do that as well, but I did. And so I spent the first month just hanging out, and then I went to Okinawa, and it was like a horrible dormitory. Anyway, after the first day of like, it turned out to be like a kebab shop on the beach. But whatever, they didn't want me. They were like, no. Oh, it was an ice cream place as well. Okay, so it was ice cream at night, kebab in the day. But whatever, they didn't want me, actually. So I don't know, like yeah, but yeah, I so I had to wait for the company to get me flight ticket back. They also gave me the option to like find another job in Okinawa, but I was too sad. Like I remember just sitting and crying in that horrible dormitory, and I didn't have much money and I didn't have much food. Oh, it was so horrible. Anyway, eventually I was able to fly back to Tokyo, and I stayed in a hotel room, and I it was at that time that I really wanted to die, and that's when I started thinking about it properly. And at that time, I used to make websites, and I used to have a blog, and I made like a project for myself where I made like a magazine, and I wrote about myself and stuff. I wrote all this, and I wish I could find it again, but it's on my old computer. Um, and I wrote that I really want to die, but I really want to wait until SHINee's new album, because it was the time that SHINee's new album was coming out. It was Lucifer, I think, Lucifer album, and it was great. It was a really good album. And I I would spend so much time crying and stuff that I kind of like mentally reset, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna try. And I went back to a guest house in Tokyo, and I started my own business. I was at the shopping service, and then because I could never get a job, and I think the main reason I couldn't get a job was I had no Japanese, yeah, and then also I didn't have a degree, and I thought with a working holiday it was fine, but for some reason at the time it was hard for me to find jobs, which a working holiday visa was okay, just okay, and I wasn't like a drinker or anything, so I never like considered working in a bar or anything. And comparing me now to me then, I guess I didn't know that much about Japan, because now I wish I had a working holiday visa because I could get any job, whereas work visas are so specific to certain types of jobs. Anyway, fast forward, when I went back, so I went back to the UK just before the 3/11 earthquake, and I was just super depressed. I remember I used to just stay. I mean, I stayed in bed, but I was tired. Like I would go out sometimes, and I just like would listen to Harry Potter audiobooks most of the time. And but I was applying for jobs, and at some point, so I came back 2011, and I managed to get a job. There was a new supermarket, not supermarket, shopping. I'm trying to change it to British English. Shopping centre, Westfield, opening in Stratford, and I managed to get a job at Topshop, and that was my dream. I always wanted to work at Topshop. Like, yo, it was like 3,000 people applied, and I got it. So I felt really good about that. It didn't turn out that good, of course it didn't. Luckily, I also, when I was working at Topshop, after like a month or two, oh, I remember the training at Topshop. We didn't actually do the training at Stratford, we did it somewhere else, and that was horrible. Like, oh my god, some really horrible people used to work there. Like, oh, anyway, so I noticed Pinkberry opening, so I applied to Pinkberry, and I got a job at Pinkberry. So I had two jobs. Both part time. One of them, so Topshop would start at 5 a.m. Not, it didn't start at 5 a.m. It started at 7, but I had to wake up at 5. And waking up at 5 was really hard, obviously, but it was super depressing because I would leave in the dark, walk to work in the dark. And then, but I was on the shoe section, and I really loved that. And then I used to just work at Pinkberry on the weekends, and Pinkberry was like Selfridges, and then it moved to Stratford. So I just did that. I had two jobs. I had money. I had more money than I could spend. I didn't have to pay rent or anything. Yeah. And then, so I was okay at that time. I think I lived a strange life because I would like get home in the afternoon and then eat, and I was fine. Topshop was horrible though, and I had to leave at some point. and then I just worked at Pinkberry, and then what was I basically fast forward. I said I was okay before, but I think I would try to kill myself like every 2 months or so. So maybe I wasn't, because it all leads up to 2013. So 2013 was the year that I didn't really remember, because that was like the lowest point ever, and that's when I actually like got the closest to actually killing myself. At like the last moment, I don't know if it was the last moment, but before I passed out, I was like, actually no, I don't want to die, I'm gonna try. So that's like the second time I tried, and I damaged myself, and for like until basically last year, it healed up last year. I would have pain every time I hiccuped or coughed. But then again, in hindsight, I don't know if I would have been successful anyway. But anyway, I decided to live, and I decided I had this list on my computer of like to-do list for the world, like, and one of them was to study Japanese, to become fluent in Japanese. This list, I actually, to now, I got through this list. It was very specific things like wear a kimono at an appropriate occasion, or entertain a group of men. It's like, yeah. But I did it. I've done it all now. But there's one that I had never managed, which is like the bane of my life, which is everything I've been aiming for, which is to have a cat, to have a kitten and a puppy grow up together. Like, and I had to get into a situation where I could financially afford a place which would allow that, which I'm in now. But yeah, it's really sad. It's really sad. Anyway, so I wanted to go to university, and I managed to get into university. Now I had like a side dream, apart from studying fashion at St. Martin's. It was to go to this university called SOAS, which is in Russell Square near the British Museum. And I had this dream about going there and studying Korean and Japanese and Korean. So I applied and everything, and I managed to get through, which was really good because I didn't have like A levels, because I did fashion, so I did like different kind of certificates. And this is really petty, but like I wanted to do Korean and Japanese, but they only on the system, UCAS is a system that I was complaining about before, they only had the Japanese one, and then I just like, okay, I'll just go for that. And then when I actually started going to the university, I was so shy, and I didn't say to the admin office like, hey, actually I want to do this course. But anyway, whatever. In hindsight, I would have rather done, but I think it would have been better for me, because the language part was like okay for me, but I think it was like writing essays and stuff which was the hardest part for me, because I never learned how to write essays properly. I didn't come from that background. I don't come from an academic background. I come from a creative background, and I didn't know how to write essays until my last final year. Anyway, talking about university, it was pretty good. I made really good friends there. For the first time in my life, I had friends. In 2013, when I attempted, I didn't have any friends. I had like colleagues from work, and I was still going to work. I still remember what triggered me into it, and like, so I had like people, but I didn't think they were really my friends, and I didn't write a note or anything. I had no one to write to or anything. But when I was in university, I was able to socialize so much more, and I just met so many people regardless. And I actually, because I joined Facebook as well, and I always hated Facebook, like, oh. And then in our second year, we were able to choose which university we could study for, to go to in Japan, and we had to take an exam in preparation for that as well. They said my GPA was really low, so I couldn't get into my first choice, but I was able to go to a really prestigious university in Japan. And when I was hoping, I was bargaining getting in, I said like university was fine and everything, but I was on medication and I was still really sad and stuff. But I was getting by. I still never really told everyone everything, I don't think I told anyone that I actually tried to kill myself, like, because it was so low key. Like, so before, I would go to doctors, and it would be like, they'd open like my file, and they had all these instances. It was like 7 instances of like, oh, you tried. They wouldn't say like that, but they had all these records of me trying to kill myself, and I didn't. I don't even remember, but I know it was like 7. Okay, but then the last actual time where I became close, I didn't. There was no doctor or anything like that. No. By the way, I talked about having an eating disorder before. Um, at the time of like just before I went to university, I had gotten over it, and the reason for that is because we moved. Um, when I was in my childhood home, I was really comfortable, so I was able to eat comfortably. But when we moved, I was never able to eat comfortably again. And then we moved again. And then we moved again. Okay, so when we moved to the second place, which was like, not the second place, but the second long-term place, I was able to eat comfortably, more comfortably, but it still wasn't it. So I was able to get over my eating disorder. But I wasn't fully over it until maybe actually going to university, because I was out. I moved out. Like, we moved to Liverpool, and then I moved back to London. When I was in Liverpool, I had that first time in Liverpool, I had a little taste of how amazing Liverpool was, but I didn't know yet, because I wasn't able to like take part in much stuff. I wasn't. I mean, I was, but I didn't. But yeah, Liverpool. So yeah, university, second year. So second year, I was bargaining with passing my exams, and I said, if I pass, I will never think about killing myself again. And then I passed, and I got in. University in Japan was like, I think it was really fun, really amazing. Like, so the reason I decided to live here, but again, I was really sad. I cried every week. And then I realized the reason I felt so horrible was because I didn't have an escape, because I said you can't think about killing yourself anymore. But I had to make myself actually say, actually no, you can, because it's an escape. You don't have to be like this forever. It can end. It can be over. So I started thinking about it again. I don't know if I got better, but in some way I got better. But yeah, living as a student in Japan was really fun and free, and I got to experience lots of things that I wanted to experience, and I got through like things on my list, which I mentioned before. Like, with entertaining a group of men, the situation was that I worked in a maid cafe, and that was the kind of thing you did. Yeah, and you got really comfortable. So I gained so many social skills just from university and from living in Japan. And I think, why didn't I gain that in my first attempt of university? I don't know. But yeah. And then fourth year of university was really hard. I came back. I was homeless. I couldn't find accommodation. It was really horrible. I lived with a friend for a while, and then I went into like student accommodation. And I just remembered, like, I wasn't even going to talk about this, but like, a lot of the time when in my life generally, like, there'll be a situation, like, there'll always be something bad, there'll always be some horrible negative in any situation. So for example, I got my dream job at Topshop, but everything was horrible. Topshop closed down like 2 years ago, and I was so happy because they closed down, but then their clothes are still available. The whole like management is just gone, and that was really good. Like, such horrible people work there. I didn't understand. So anyway, student accommodation. This place, it was pretty bad. It was like super small rooms. Like, my room was smaller than this, and then you had like shared toilets and bathrooms and everything. And the main problem with there is that the security staff, door staff, there was something wrong with them. There's this particular man. When I left, I had to write a letter and like report him. And I mean, I guess they tried to help, but I felt like they didn't help too much, because when people respond to a situation and they're like, oh well, they don't work there anymore anyway, we're gonna change the stuff, like come on, like, oh. So I actually, I don't know if I'll talk about it, but yeah, I experienced harassment basically, and I also experienced not being helped when I should have been helped, and like being in very scary situations when I should have been helped. Yeah. Anyway, I graduated, but I had a really horrible grade from university. But I graduated, but I felt so ashamed of my university grade that I couldn't really enjoy it that much. But I did graduate and I finished. So it's like, okay, I didn't drop out, it's finished. Just got debt. To this day, I've never earned enough money to start paying back I started laughing and then I felt really sad. I've never earned enough money to start paying back my university debt, and it's a lot of money. It's like crazy money. Like, I imagined, what if I became like a YouTuber and I actually did really well? Like, it would be a while before I could actually make money. Anyway, so as soon as I graduated, even before I graduated, I was applying to jobs in Japan. My dream was to become like a translator for games at that time. My original dream, before I like knew about how good I was I wanted to be like a script writer, to make dramas in Japanese. Yeah. But I didn't really have a strong dream of what I wanted to do in Japan. I said briefly about the relationship I have with my mother, and generally with my family. Not really. I'll be honest, I don't think of myself as having a family, and for some reason I always like loved any fiction to do with orphans, and I didn't really understand why, but still to this day, like anything to do with orphans, I just love. But yeah, I just never felt like I really had a family. But it's probably the same reason that I didn't make friends. It's like, maybe I felt like if people don't have similar interests, then I'm not really interested in them, something like that. But I mean, I wouldn't say they didn't treat me the best either. But yeah. Anyway, because of that, I wanted to get to Japan as soon as possible. So I applied to be an Eikaiwa teacher. Eikaiwa is a English conversation school. It's not English teaching. I didn't know what it was at the time. But I applied to be that. I applied to a certain school and I wasn't able to work there. And then I applied to a different one and I got that job. Started the process to get a visa. I knew I was going. It took a long time, but for those few months I was in Liverpool, I went to this Korean language exchange group, and they were the best people ever, and like Liverpool is amazing. And like if I don't know, I wanted to just get a part-time job. I found it really hard to get a part-time job in Liverpool, but I would have enjoyed living there. But yeah, just the best people. People are so friendly, and not like London people are bad. I mean, I know London people aren't bad now that I've been living in Tokyo. Like, there's levels of friendliness, really. People in London are hella friendly compared to people in Tokyo. Anyway, so I was able to come to Japan in 2019, like right at the beginning, and I started working as a Eikaiwa teacher, and I guess it was fine. I started applying for new jobs like a year later, and I wasn't able to get anything. Even though there were so many jobs which I thought that I was perfect for. There was a particular time where I got to an interview, Japanese interview, and I did really bad, and I felt really bad. So I had to like work on my Japanese. By the way, in like studying Japanese as my major, I never I never felt I reached the level that I really wanted to. I didn't reach like a high level. In the last year, I didn't do language. I didn't do it at all. I did like this translation class, which was really hard. But looking back on that, it was like meiji texts. Like, why? I mean, the other people in the class did fine, but I just don't understand how I would be expected to be able to do that. Like, even like now, it's just another level. Like now, the stuff I have trouble with is like the true everyday language. Like when I watch YouTube videos and I I can't understand everything because it just doesn't really exist. Like it's just hasn't I haven't learned it. It's just something else. It's not like it's some old language. Anyway, I was able to get another job eventually in the summer of 2020, which was like administrator at a preschool. And that's the reason I wanted to start YouTube because there was a character there who was really something. And yeah, that's the first time I was actually like, I need to start content creation because I want to talk about this. But I want to start with this video. But that's moot now. When the thing about that job was, if you take away that person, it was pretty good. But the pay was really bad. It was actually less. Anyway, the pay was really bad, and I was. One of the links to my depression is related to money, always. If I'm not financially stable, it's like the worst ever. So I was really depressed, and I was planning to kill myself on the 5th of January 2021. I still remember the building that the school was in was like quite high, and there was we would take the bins out and you have to go on the roof and you had to use this big bins on the roof. The whole thing of that is because in Japan they have a very different trash system. Like in the UK we have wheelie bins, so it's just there, but in Japan it's like you have to put it out on a certain day. So you might be keeping your trash in a place. Like if you ever watch, like, why am I going off on a tangent, but I just feel like it. So if you ever watch like drama, even anime as well, sometimes they have a character and they're just sitting in their room and they're surrounded by like white bags. It's because, well, they have a problem, yeah, but that can be normal because it's just, if you missed it, you have to put it to the next week. And I keep stuff in my freezer. It's just, yeah. Anyway, so they had access to the roof, so I was like, when we come back from the Christmas holiday, I'm just gonna go up there and jump off. Like, I'm not gonna say hello to anyone, I'm just gonna go up there and jump off. That was my plan. I don't know why I didn't do it, to be honest. Maybe usually it's something related to K-pop. Like, this is really bad, but something related to K-pop or some TV show that I wanted to watch. Okay, I'll wait. And then, like, within a few weeks, I received an email from the company that I used to work at, and they offered me, like, a lot of money to go back and work for them. It was like 50% raise to what I was currently being paid. So I wasn't sure, but I spoke to the person who ran the company. I had like a real heart-to-heart with them, but it's really weird because it's weird to have a heart-to-heart and then not really come out with anything. I just felt really embarrassed. I talked about wanting to kill myself before, but I didn't go into detail. And then, but the thing is, there was lots of problems with that company and me anyway, because I already felt like I was being ostracized. Just before I even planned to quit, I felt like I was being left out of stuff and just bad treatment anyway. So I handed in my notice. I accepted the offer from the company, and then I went to work at that company again, but I worked in Ginza and another place, and that was a year ago. I don't know, it's been like a few months. So I stopped working there at the end of February, and it's really weird, but in that just 1 year of working there, I was so traumatized just from like a few customers. And it's really weird. I don't know why they affected me so much, but every now and then I just get like echoing things in my head from that. But anyway, from that job I was able to move to this apartment, which was like my dream apartment. Like, it ticked all the boxes, but it's quite expensive. And then I didn't want to continue working for that company because I never wanted to be a teacher anyway. But also, yeah, let's say it's pretty traumatizing. I didn't realize how traumatizing it was until like the last month or so, because I was like, why do you still remember this? There were some really horrible customers, and that's another reason why I wanted to do YouTube. But I just never, I procrastinated so much. Yeah. And then in the last few months, I've just been trying to find a job, and I've been messed around. I've had my time wasted. I had, I've been discriminated against, but not in the way you would expect. But like, for it's really stupid. Like, for working as an English teacher or something in that field, I've been like, for having that on my CV is like a point for discrimination. In Japan, there has never been one recruitment agency who has ever responded. They say you can just send your resume or whatever, and then they'll try and find a job for you or something, and none has ever responded. And this is over like years. And then in the last few months, I have sent it to every single company, and I thought at least, because recruiters seem to be, you know, active go-getting people, and I thought they would at least, you know, try to help me. Oh, I think I can get this person a job, or at least I can try. And when I'm in my last job, I was the recruitment department, and I spoke to other recruiters and stuff like that. So, and also because of that, I thought I could actually be a recruiter, but again, no. Yeah, it's like you're blacklisted. I don't know what it is, but I could never do that. And then once on Facebook, this woman who was like, oh yeah, I feel like helping some people. I'm a recruiter, and I sent her my thing, and she's like, oh, I'm sorry, I can't help you. I'm like, oh, why not? And she said, oh, because we only help people who earn this much money, and we don't help people who have been English teachers. And I was so shocked, because it's like, first you assume that I only made this much money. I didn't say, oh no, I had a special contract and I got this much. Like, no. Just thought, gosh, okay, everything just clicked and just made sense. And I cried. I don't cry that much these days. Like, in the last year, maybe like say since COVID started, I didn't cry. And maybe I only cry when I watch End of the Office, which I've watched legitimately 17 times, or I watch like Korean dramas. This is only like a new thing, like, because before I'd just be like pretty stoic, but recent certain Korean dramas, like, yeah, I'll cry. But yeah, when she said that, I cried like pitifully. I like yeah. This was like 2 months ago maybe. So I thought, yeah, it's horrible. It's a horrible form of discrimination, and I I had been trying to apply for jobs that I wanted only, so it wasn't English teaching. It was like translation or administration or like anything content creation related or anything, and I got through to some stages, but a lot of the time I just felt like I was being messed around, you know? Like, I didn't understand why I wasn't getting through to the next round, because I could totally do it. There was there was only a few times where I thought that I was actually racially discriminated against, and then yeah, and then after that I got into like, I have to make sure I do have my picture every time I apply, because you can tell if someone sees you for the first time and they're like, you know, and then yeah, you can tell. But that's not really the issue, but it's only an issue for me because it makes me afraid. It doesn't make me confident about things. Anyway, I can't remember what else I wanted to say. I did miss out some stuff. I missed out the whole racial aspect of another layer of why I hate myself, and also why I don't have confidence or courage to do things. So let's go back in hindsight. So go back to when I didn't get into St. Mines. So like, when I thought of my life. When I was a teenager, my mother used to often threaten to kick me out. Like, she would say, you know, one day you're gonna come home and all your stuff's gonna be outside and you won't be, you know, that kind of thing. And I don't know why. I've always just been really. I've kind of felt like as long as I have my computer or my TV, I'll be fine. When I was 8 years old, at some point, I don't know, I must have done something, and my mother said, "You are banned from watching TV for X amount of time." And I decided I was going to kill myself. That was the first time, 8 years old. And I wrote a note, and I actually tried. Like, I got a knife and I tried, and I was like, "Oh, this hurts a bit," like in the heart. And then my mother, her reaction was that she just laughed. I kind of understand that, but I think she should have taken it really seriously, because I never really changed that kind of fatalistic thought about life. Like, if I don't have what I want, then I don't see the point of living. So, like, and also I don't understand why I continue to stay there, but I didn't have anywhere else to go. I know I didn't. I probably would have been homeless. But if I could live again, I think, yes, I could have gone to college, yes. Because you have to stay, I guess you have to stay at home until you're 16. But I think I should have left home as soon as possible. But I don't know where I would have gone, but I guess I should have made friends or something. I mean, you can have a job when you're 16, but you're not making enough money to pay rent and stuff. But yeah, I think I should have left home and like actually experienced real life and like the dirt, the grit, the horrible stuff of life. Like, when I was that age, I could never watch horror movies or anything. I couldn't watch horror movies until I was like 23. The reason was because I read the manga Gantz, and that was so graphic at that time. It just like desensitized me to everything. Yeah, I just think I should have experienced life more, and then my portfolio would have been better, because there were so many things I hadn't experienced. So I wish I had done that. And then also I would have just become more confident and have more courage to do things. But that, I mean, moving away from home is a big thing anyway. But yeah, I don't know how I would have done it, but I wish I'd done that. Growing up in London as a black person, I didn't have many problems, to be honest. I wasn't really I didn't really have black friends, so I didn't really experience anyone else's experience. I only knew about like my mother's experience when she was growing up and like applying for jobs and stuff, and she would say, you know, we have very British names, right? So she'd turn up and they would say, "Oh, the job's been taken." Sorry, it would see that she's black and the job's been taken. Ironically, in Japan, in like 4 years later, it's kind of the same situation. I think, I do think of Japan as like 40 years behind the UK socially, on many fronts. But then I think there's a difference in that people are ignorant, not hateful. There's a difference there. Anyway, so I never really, I never really wanted to be black. Obviously, but like when I was a kid, it really bothered me. And it didn't help that I really got into like Asian stuff. But then generally everything was white anyway. So everything was white, and then and then I got into everything that was Asian. So I just never really liked myself, and I never felt like I would ever be able to show myself as I really wanted to be, I guess. But yeah, if I had left home at that time, it would have helped. Definitely, it would have helped. When I did my working holiday in Japan, I should have. I mean, I didn't have Japanese. I really didn't talk Japanese back in those days. I really didn't. It was just like, I could go to a shop, maybe, that's it. And I used to do that, kind of make reservations for things at shops and whatnot, I could do that. But yeah, I couldn't really do anything else. Yeah, I feel like courage has been like a major problem in my life, like not having the courage to go for things. Like as I said, even when I did Japanese, I wanted to do Japanese and Korean, but I didn't have the courage to even talk about it. There's a guy who disappeared doing work there. So anyway, I'll finish up. I think I finished. Basically, I wanted to document everything just to kind of justify why I feel like if I'm not doing what I want to do in life, I kind of give up. And also I wanted to give background that I have attempted suicide before, and basically this life that I'm living now is my second or third attempt. And this time around I was just trying to live simply. But actually part of the reason I wanted to go to university was because I was like, I just want to get married, just have a simple life. Just live a simple life, quiet life, and be fine. But the situation I'm in now is that I haven't been able to get a job, and I do want to still live in Japan. I do, like, everything I like is here, but I just haven't been able to get a job. It's been too long. Like, I don't know if I'm in trouble with like the visa people, because you have to have a job like every 3 months or something. But there's also an issue here with like pension. Like, Japan is surprisingly expensive to live in, and I never signed up for pension, but because of a previous job they signed me up for it, and then I was on the record, I was in the system, and then they were like, you have to pay this much money, and I couldn't, and then I called them up and they said, you know what, if you can't pay, then don't. And then I was like clarifying again and again and again, okay, you don't have to pay, okay. So then like I was like, okay, so I just ignore the letters, even though they're red, blue, yellow, pink. Yeah, I just ignore the letters. And then like, and then like there's like a collection agency or something who actually came to my house one day. Yeah, so I'm always worried about that. I haven't really spoken about anxiety. Anxiety is, I don't think I suffer from anxiety. I think that anxiety is just something I've always had as part of my life. It's just part of me. It affects everything. So I don't think I suffer from it. I don't think I would be able to cure it, because I don't think it will ever go away. It's just something. But that is something. But that said, since I moved to Japan this time round, I have slept better than ever. Like before, I always had trouble sleeping, but since I came here, I slept much better. Yeah, I did actually talk about everything that I wanted to talk about. But basically, yeah, to wrap it up, my life has not been what I hoped it would be. And reaching the age that I am, which is 32, this has always been like my limit. I had like expectations for what I wanted to do at this time. So if I disappear, this is why. This is the reason. Everything that I said in this video is why. It's not giving up, because I've already given up and tried again. I just kind of given up trying, and I feel like at this point enough is enough. And maybe I haven't gone into enough detail about the reasons why, but there's some pretty dark stuff I didn't really want to talk about, but yeah, I've got a lot of bad memories, so I'll be better. Okay.